The morning the selection officers arrived, Mira was in the underground gardens tending to the last surviving cherry blossom tree from old Japan. Her hands were dirty with soil, her hair tied back in a messy bun, and for just a moment she'd forgotten that Earth wasn't hers anymore. The tree had finally started blooming after 2 years of careful work, and the delicate pink petals reminded her of what the world used to be. "Mira, they're here," Joanna's voice came through the garden calm, tight with fear. Myra's hands stilled in the soil. Every human over 18 knew what "they're here" meant during selection week. The Velcaran occupation government held their tribute lottery 4 times a year, and this was the spring selection. She'd been lucky for 5 years, her number never called. But luck was a finite resource. She climbed out of the garden bed, brushing dirt from her work coveralls, and made her way up through the artificial light corridors to the surface level. New Singapore had rebuilt itself partially underground after the initial invasion destroyed most of the city. Down here in the botanical sections, you could almost pretend the world was normal. Almost. The selection hall was crowded with people whose numbers had been flagged for the lottery. Mira found Kai immediately, her 17-year-old brother standing near the back wall, his face pale. He wasn't eligible yet, but he'd come anyway. Everyone came to support their people, even knowing they couldn't change what the random algorithms decided. "I'm okay," Mira mouthed to him, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. The Velcaran officers stood on the platform at the front of the hall, their crystalline skin catching the artificial lights and scattering rainbow reflections across the walls. They were beautiful in an unsettling way, tall and elegant with markings that glowed beneath their translucent skin. Their eyes had no visible pupils, just solid colors that ranged from amber to deep blue. Handler Vex, the local occupation administrator, stepped forward. He was one of the few Velcarans who'd learned to speak human languages, though his accent made everything sound formal and strange. "The spring selection will now commence," he said, his voice carrying easily across the silent hall. 40 individuals will be chosen for off-world tribute service. This is a great honor that strengthens the bond between our peoples. It wasn't an honor. Everyone knew that. It was a reminder that Earth was property now, and humans were resources to be allocated as the Empire saw fit. The algorithm began displaying numbers on the screens mounted around the hall. Mira watched them scroll past, her heart beating too fast. Kai's hand found hers across the crowd, squeezing tight. Her number appeared on the screen. Identity designation 47, NS 2847, Mira Chen. Report for processing. The world seemed to tilt sideways. Joanna was suddenly beside her, arms wrapped tight. Kai pushed through the crowd, his face crumbling. "No, no, there has to be a mistake," Kai said, his voice breaking. "She's essential personnel. The gardens need her." Essential personnel status was not flagged in the selection algorithm, Handler Vex said, not unkindly. "Your sister has been chosen fairly." Fairly. As if anything about the occupation was fair. Mira hugged Kai hard, memorizing the feeling of her baby brother in her arms, trying not to think about the fact that she might never see him again. Tributes didn't come back. Sometimes their families received messages saying they were well, serving in various capacities across the Velcaran Empire. Sometimes families received nothing at all. "You take care of the cherry tree," Mira whispered against Kai's hair. "It needs water twice a week, and watch for aphids in the spring. The integrated pest management protocols are all in the system." "I don't care about the stupid tree," Kai sobbed. "I care about you. I know. I know, baby. But you have to keep going, okay? Keep the gardens running. Keep growing things. That's how we survive this." Joanna pulled her aside as the officers began organizing the selected tributes. "I'll watch out for Kai," she promised. "And I'll keep your apartment maintained, in case you come back." They both knew the odds of return were minimal, but the pretense of hope was all they had. The processing happened quickly after that. Medical scans, decontamination showers, identity chip implants behind the ear that would track them anywhere in Velcaran space. Mira was issued a simple gray jumpsuit and assigned to Group 7 along with 39 other humans. She recognized a few faces. Daniel Cortez, who'd been a soldier before Earth surrendered. Yuki Tanaka, a musician who'd performed in the underground clubs. Others she'd seen around the residential districts but never really known. They were loaded onto a transport shuttle, still in Earth's atmosphere but climbing fast. Through the small window, Mira caught one last glimpse of the blue planet that had been humanity's home for millennia. Then they breached the cloud layer, and Earth disappeared behind them. The journey to the Velcaran homeworld took 3 weeks in cryosleep. Mira woke on a medical table in a processing facility that looked like it handled thousands of beings from hundreds of species. The scale of the Velcaran Empire was impossible to comprehend. Earth was just one small conquered world among dozens. More processing. More categorization. The Velcarans were efficient, she'd give them that. Every step had a purpose, every scan collecting data that fed into whatever algorithms decided their fates. Most of Group 7 was assigned to agricultural colonies or mining operations. Daniel went to security services, which made sense given his background. Yuki was sent to entertainment facilities. And then there were 5 of them left standing in the processing center, Mira among them, with Handler Vex looking at them with an expression she couldn't quite read. "You 5 have been selected for Imperial service," Vex said. "This is very rare for tribute humans. You should feel honored." Mira didn't feel honored. She felt terrified. They were separated from the main group and taken to private preparation chambers. Mira was assigned a Velcaran attendant named Lisa who explained in halting English that they would be presented to the Imperial Court. "Presented for what?" Mira asked. Lisa's markings flickered uncertainly. "For the Emperor's consideration. Perhaps royal household service. Perhaps cultural study. The Emperor is interested in many things." That didn't answer anything, but Lisa wouldn't elaborate further. Instead, she guided Mira through preparation rituals that felt both luxurious and deeply uncomfortable. Bathing in waters that seemed to clean at a molecular level, wearing formal garments that were beautiful but clearly marked her as something other, something foreign. The dress they gave her was made of fabric that shifted colors like oil on water, cut in a style that was neither human nor Velcaran but something in between. Her hair was arranged in a way that exposed her neck and shoulders, which apparently was important for some protocol reason Mira didn't understand. "You must not speak unless the Emperor addresses you directly," Lisa instructed as they prepared to leave the chamber. "You must keep your eyes lowered until given permission to look up. You must bow to precisely 45 degrees when presented. These rules are absolute. What happens if I break them?" Lisa's expression was genuinely worried. "Please do not break them." They were taken through corridors of the floating palace, a structure so massive it had its own gravity generators and weather systems. Through windows, Mira caught glimpses of the Velcaran homeworld below, cities of crystal spires and flowing water, breathtakingly beautiful. The throne room doors opened ahead of them, and Mira's breath caught. The space was enormous, with vaulted ceilings that seemed to capture starlight. Hundreds of Velcaran nobles filled the chamber, their formal attire making them look like living jewels. And at the far end, on a throne that appeared to be carved from a single massive crystal, sat Emperor Theron. The 5 humans were arranged in a line before the throne platform, and Mira tried to remember everything Lisa had taught her about protocol. "Keep your eyes down, bow at 45 degrees, don't speak unless spoken to, don't make any sudden movements that might be interpreted as threatening." Her heart was pounding so hard she wondered if the Velcarans could hear it. Could they sense fear? Did their different biology let them read human emotions in ways she didn't understand? Handler Vex, who'd apparently been assigned to manage their presentation, stepped forward and began speaking in the Velcaran language. The translation implant behind Mira's ear rendered it into English with a slight delay. "Your Imperial Majesty, honored members of the High Court, I present 5 tribute humans from the world designated Earth, selected for potential Imperial service. They have been prepared according to proper protocol and await your consideration. Emperor Theron sat perfectly still on his throne, and even with her eyes lowered, Mira could sense the weight of his attention. She'd seen Velcarin officials before, but nothing had prepared her for the Emperor's presence. He was younger than she'd expected, perhaps equivalent to 30 in human years, with skin that looked like white crystal shot through with silver veins. His markings, the luminescent patterns beneath the skin that all Velcarans had, were more elaborate than any she'd seen, covering his arms and climbing up his neck in intricate designs. Approach, the Emperor's voice carried easily across the chamber, deep and resonant. The 5 humans stepped forward in synchronized movement, the way Lisa had drilled them. 3 steps, pause, 3 more steps, pause, final approach to the presentation line marked on the floor. Mira kept her breathing steady, focused on the smooth crystal floor beneath her feet. She could see the reflections of the court in the polished surface, hundreds of Velcarans watching with expressions ranging from curiosity to bored indifference. Present them individually, Emperor Theron commanded. Handler Vex gestured to the first human, a young man who'd been a programmer before the selection. Identity designation 23NA 5649, from the North American territory. The Emperor's attention swept over him briefly. Assigned to data services. Next. One by one, the other humans were assessed and assigned. Mira watched their feet as they were led away, relieved for them but increasingly nervous about her own fate. Then it was her turn, and she was alone before the throne. Identity designation 47 NS 2847, from the New Singapore territory, Vex announced. Specialized skill in botanical sciences. Mira kept her eyes down, maintained the proper bow position, tried not to shake visibly. There was silence. It stretched out long enough that Myra's back began to ache from holding the bow. Had she done something wrong? Was she supposed to speak? Lisa had said not to speak, but maybe she'd misunderstood. Look at me. The Emperor's voice was quiet, but it carried absolute authority. Mira raised her eyes slowly, finally seeing Emperor Theron fully. He was staring at her with an expression of complete shock. His markings, the luminescent patterns beneath his skin, suddenly flared brilliant white-blue, so bright that gasps rippled through the assembled court. Mira had never seen Velcarin markings do that. Usually, they were subtle, soft glows that shifted gently. This was like watching lightning trapped under crystal. Emperor Theron stood abruptly, and the entire court seemed to inhale in unison. Apparently, that wasn't normal protocol either. He descended from the throne platform, moving toward Mira with focused intensity. She wanted to step back but didn't dare move. Lisa had been very clear about not moving unless instructed. The Emperor stopped directly in front of her, close enough that Mira could see the intricate details of his markings, the way they pulsed with light that seemed to match rhythm of some internal current. His eyes, solid deep violet without any visible pupil, studied her face with an expression that Mira couldn't begin to interpret. This is impossible, Emperor Theron said quietly, seemingly to himself. Then louder, addressing the court, clear the throne room. Immediately. Everyone except High Scholar Xena and the Imperial Guard. There was a moment of confusion. Velcarin nobles glanced at each other, clearly not understanding what was happening. Apparently, randomly dismissing the entire court wasn't standard procedure. Now, the Emperor said, his voice harder. The court began to file out, though Mira could feel their reluctance, their desperate curiosity about what had caused such an unprecedented reaction. It took several long minutes for the massive throne room to empty, leaving only the Emperor, Mira, about 20 Velcarin guards positioned around the perimeter, and an elderly Velcarin woman in scholarly robes who approached from a side entrance. Your Majesty, the woman, presumably Scholar Xena, asked carefully. What has happened? Emperor Theron gestured toward Mira without taking his eyes off her. Look at her, Xena. Truly look. Tell me I'm seeing things. Tell me this is stress or exhaustion or some kind of hallucination. Scholar Xena approached Mira, pulling out a scanning device from her robes. She ran it over Myra's body from head to toe, her expression shifting from confused to shocked to something that looked like awe. Your Majesty, Xena said slowly, the resonance signature is unmistakable. I'm detecting harmonic patterns that shouldn't exist in any species except. She trailed off, running the scan again as if not believing the results. Except what? Mira asked, breaking the protocol about not speaking, but she needed to understand what was happening. Both the Emperor and the scholar looked at her as if they'd forgotten she could talk. Except, Emperor Theron said carefully, individuals who carry what our ancient texts call the harmony resonance. A specific energy pattern that only appeared in the bloodlines of the first bridge builders, before the separation. None of that meant anything to Mira. I'm sorry, but I don't understand any of this. What separation? What bridge builders? I'm just a botanist from Earth. There's nothing special about me. Scholar Xena laughed, though it sounded slightly hysterical. Child, you are carrying a resonance pattern that we haven't seen in our people for over 300 years, not since the Astari separation. And it should be impossible for a human to have it at all. The Astari, Mira repeated. Emperor Theron finally moved back slightly, giving Mira space to breathe. His markings were still glowing more brightly than normal, but they'd settled into a steady pulse rather than the explosive flaring from before. The Astari were our sister species, he explained. 3 centuries ago, we were one people. Then came the ideological split, the territorial disputes, the war that nearly destroyed us both. We separated into 2 civilizations, Velkaran and Astari, and we've been locked in Cold War ever since. Not open conflict, but constant tension, border skirmishes, diplomatic failures. Both peoples exhausting resources preparing for a war that neither wants to start but neither dares to back down from. And the harmony resonance, Mira pressed. According to our oldest histories, Scholar Xena said, there was a prophecy made during the final peace talks before the separation became permanent. A seer from the neutral territories predicted that one day, someone would appear bearing the mark of unity, someone whose very existence could bridge the gap between Velkaran and Astari. This person would carry the harmony resonance, a signature that speaks equally to both peoples, and would have the power to end our division. Mira shook her head. But I'm human. I'm not Velkaran or Astari. How could I possibly? We don't know, Emperor Theron interrupted. That's what makes this so impossible. The harmony resonance is tied to specific genetic sequences that developed in our evolutionary history. Humans evolved on a completely different world with no connection to our lineage. You shouldn't have this resonance at all, yet Scholar Xena's scans are unambiguous. Scan me again, Mira said. Maybe your equipment is malfunctioning. Maybe human biology just looks similar to whatever you're searching for, but it's actually different. Scholar Xena ran 3 more scans, each more detailed than the last. Each time, her expression grew more certain. Your Majesty, there is no error. This human carries the harmony resonance perfectly. Her neural signature resonates at exactly the frequency described in the ancient prophecy. If I didn't know she was human, I would swear she was a descendant of the bridge builder bloodlines from before the separation. Emperor Theron turned away, pacing toward his throne and back, his movements agitated. His markings were still pulsing, and Mira was starting to realize that they were reacting to her presence specifically. Do you understand what this means? He asked, though Mira wasn't sure if he was talking to her or to Scholar Xena. If word of this spreads, if either the Velkaran factions or the Astari leadership learn that someone bearing the harmony resonance has appeared, especially that it's a human from a conquered world, it will cause unprecedented upheaval. Or it could cause unprecedented hope, Scholar Xena said quietly. Emperor Theron stopped pacing and looked at Mira with an expression she was learning to read as deep internal conflict. Tell me about yourself. Not your designation or your skills. Tell me who you are. The request was so unexpected that Mira didn't know how to respond. What did you tell the Emperor of the civilization that conquered your world? I grew up in Singapore, she started hesitantly. Before the occupation, I was finishing my doctorate in botanical engineering. I wanted to work on climate restoration projects. After the Velkaran arrived, formal education stopped for most of humanity, but I kept studying on my own. I've been maintaining underground gardens in New Singapore, trying to preserve plant species from before. She trailed off, unsure how to reference the invasion diplomatically. Before we destroyed your world's equilibrium, the Emperor finished for her, his tone carrying something that might have been regret. Continue. I have a younger brother, Kai. He's 17. I've been taking care of him since our parents died in the initial bombardment. He's smart, much smarter than me, and he deserves a better future than what Earth can offer now. That's what I think about most days. How to make sure Kai gets to have a life. Something shifted in Emperor Theron's expression. His markings flickered in a pattern that Scholar Xena seemed to recognize, because she inhaled sharply. You care deeply for your family, the Emperor said. It wasn't quite a question. Of course. Doesn't everyone? Not everyone in positions of power, he replied quietly. Many lose that capacity under the weight of duty and responsibility. Scholar Xena cleared her throat delicately. Your Majesty, we need to discuss what to do with this information. If the harmony resonance is genuine. It is genuine, the Emperor interrupted. I can feel it. My markings haven't reacted like this since. He stopped himself, the resonance is real. The question is why and how a human carries it, and what we're meant to do with this impossible situation. Mira found her voice again. Can I offer a suggestion? Both Velkarans looked at her with surprise. You could just send me back to Earth, Mira said. Forget any of this happened. Your prophecy or harmony resonance or whatever it is, maybe it's just a coincidence. Maybe your scanning equipment is picking up something in human biology that looks similar but isn't actually the same thing. I'm not whoever you're looking for. I'm just someone who wants to go home to her brother. I wish it were that simple, Emperor Theron said, and he sounded genuinely regretful. But Scholar Xena is the foremost expert on ancient resonance patterns in the Empire. If she says the signature is genuine, it's genuine. And if you truly carry the harmony resonance, then you're potentially the most significant individual in the galaxy right now. I can't simply send you back and pretend this didn't happen. Why not? Mira challenged. You're the Emperor. Can't you do whatever you want? A bitter smile crossed his face. Being Emperor means I can't do anything I want. Every decision affects millions of lives across dozens of worlds. If there's even a chance that you could help end the Velkaran Astari division, help us find peace after 3 centuries of Cold War, then I have a responsibility to explore that possibility. But I don't know how to end your war. I don't know anything about your politics or your history or your sister species. What could I possibly do? Scholar Xena spoke up gently. The ancient texts are frustratingly vague about that. They say the one who bears the mark will know what to do when the time comes. That truth will speak through them in ways that both peoples can hear. It's all very poetic and not particularly helpful for practical planning. So you want to keep me here on the off chance that I suddenly develop magical peacemaking abilities? Mira asked incredulously. I want to keep you here where you'll be safe, Emperor Theron corrected. Because once word of this spreads, and it will spread, both Velkaran extremists and Astari intelligence will want either to use you or eliminate you. There are powerful factions on both sides who profit from the continued division, who have built their entire power structures on maintaining the conflict. They will see you as a threat. The weight of his words settled over Mira like ice water. So I'm a prisoner. You're a guest under royal protection, the Emperor said firmly. There is a significant difference. A guest who can't leave. A guest who won't be killed by political assassins if she stays within the imperial palace, he countered. Yes, your freedom will be restricted. But you'll be alive, comfortable, and safe. That's more than I can guarantee if you're anywhere else in the galaxy. Mira wanted to argue, wanted to demand her freedom, but she could see the logic. If what they were saying was true, if she really did carry some kind of prophesied significance, then her life had just become incredibly complicated and dangerous. "What about Kai?" she asked. "My brother on Earth." Emperor Theron considered for a moment. "I'll arrange for him to receive special status. Protection, resources, education opportunities. He'll be safe. I want proof. Regular communication with him. That can be arranged. And I want to actually understand what's happening to me. If I'm supposed to have some kind of special abilities or purpose, I want to know everything about this prophecy and the harmony resonance and your history with the Astari." "Scholar Xena will instruct you," the Emperor agreed. "And I." He paused, his markings pulsing again. "I will meet with you regularly to discuss the political situation. If there's any possibility you can actually help bridge the Velkaran-Astari divide, we need to explore it carefully." There was something in his tone that made Mira look at him more closely. His markings were still glowing more brightly than normal, still pulsing in rhythm with something she couldn't quite identify. "Your marks," she said hesitantly, "they keep reacting when you look at me. What does that mean?" Emperor Theron glanced at Scholar Xena, who suddenly found something fascinating to study on her scanner. He turned back to Mira, and for the first time, she saw something vulnerable in his expression. "The harmony resonance doesn't just appear as a scannable signature," he explained quietly. "It has an actual effect on Velkarans who are sensitive to it. Our markings respond to the resonance frequency, particularly for those of us with strong ancestral connections to the bridge builder bloodlines. It's not uncomfortable, but it's very noticeable. I can feel your presence like a song that my body wants to harmonize with." "Oh," Mira said, because she had no idea how to respond to that. "It's why I knew immediately that something was different about you," he continued. "Before Scholar Xena even scanned you, before I had any logical confirmation, my markings were already responding. It's involuntary and quite unmistakable." They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of all these revelations hanging between them. Mira was trying to process everything: prophecies, resonances, cold wars, and the fact that apparently her mere presence caused the emperor of the civilization that had conquered Earth to react in ways he couldn't control. "So what happens now?" she finally asked. "Now," Emperor Theron said, "we figure out what you are and what you're meant to do. Carefully, quietly, while keeping you safe from those who would rather see you dead. Scholar Xena will establish you in guest quarters in the Royal Wing and begin your education on Velkaran-Astari history. I'll make arrangements for your brother's protection and communication access. And we'll all try to understand how an Earth botanist ended up carrying the solution to a 3-century-old conflict." "I'm not a solution," Mira protested. "I'm just a person." The Emperor's expression softened slightly. "Perhaps that's exactly what makes you the right person for this. Not a Velkaran with centuries of cultural baggage, not an Astari with inherited grudges. Just someone who sees the situation fresh, without the weight of our history blinding them. Or maybe I'm just wrong for all of this, and you're building hopes on a scanning error." "Perhaps," he acknowledged. "But I don't think so. My markings don't lie, Mira Chen. And they're telling me that you're exactly who the prophecy described, even if neither of us understands how or why." Scholar Xena stepped forward. "Come, child. Let me show you to your quarters. We have much to discuss, and the Emperor has urgent matters to attend to." Mira followed the scholar toward a side exit, but she glanced back once at Emperor Theron. He was standing motionless, watching her leave, his markings still glowing with that steady pulse. In his eyes, she saw something that might have been hope, or fear, or perhaps both mixed together. Her life as a simple botanist was over. Whatever came next, she was walking into it blind, carrying the weight of prophecy she didn't understand and the attention of an emperor whose markings sang in response to her presence. She thought of Kai back on Earth, of the cherry tree that would bloom without her, of the quiet life she'd been trying to maintain in the ruins of humanity's independence. All of it felt impossibly distant now, separated from her by more than just light years. But if there was even a chance that she could help end a war, help bring peace to civilizations that had been suffering for centuries, didn't she have an obligation to try? Even if she was terrified, even if she had no idea what she was doing. Mira squared her shoulders and followed Scholar Xena deeper into the palace, toward whatever impossible future awaited her.